Welcome to Disability Awareness Week at Kingsborough Community College. So my name is Peter Santiago, and I am the Associate Director of Accessibility Services at KCC. So on behalf of the college, I thank you for joining us today. Here at KCC, we value all identities and abilities. As such, every year in April, our office hosts Disability Awareness Week with events centered around disability-related theme. This year's theme is Autism and Identity. So throughout the week, we hope to provide insight into the lived experience of people on the autism spectrum through a movie screening, some panels, and an art show. We're hoping that through these events, we will all learn about what it's like for some people on the spectrum to fall in love, what it's like to raise a child on the spectrum, what we can do as a society to value individuals on the spectrum for who they are as people, what it's like to be a student at KCC as a person on the spectrum. And finally, we'll be treated to works of art created by students at KCC that are on the autism spectrum. So before we start the movie, I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge the contribution of people on the autism spectrum to the diversity and vibrancy of humanity. This week, we are very fortunate to have individuals on the spectrum that are willing to share their experiences with us. While planning these events, we tried not to speak for people on the spectrum, but instead tried to amplify their voice. The creators of Autism in Love had the same thing in mind. And they attempt to just give us a window into the lives of the people that we're about to get to know. So the film is going to be about an hour and 15 minutes, and then afterwards we'll have a brief discussion. So before I hit play, I'd like to ask for everyone to please turn off your video and to please mute yourselves throughout the film. And out of consideration for our folks using screen readers, try not to use the public chat unless you're having some kind of technical difficulty, because people using a screen reader will hear a sound, sort of like a text message going off every time someone posts something in the chat. So if you have a technical question or some kind of technical problem, please message me directly, and that'll minimize the distractions. We'll have time for questions and, like I said before, some discussion after the film. So without further ado, let me start the movie.
Because we do not own the rights to the film, we will be showing the film's trailer in its place.
I always knew I was different, but I didn't really understand why I couldn't be accepted. I felt incredibly ashamed of being autistic.
Sometimes I try to pretend I was never autistic because they would kind of laugh at you. I'm single, by the way. Had one girlfriend, but it didn't quite work out that well.
Yes, I'm in love.
What does that mean?
I don't know, it means to fall in love, to give a kiss and a hug.
Love is a very abstract concept that many people with autism have a hard time grasping. I asked her, how would you feel about being in a relationship with me? She said, I could see this may work.
What did you think when you first met her?
It's nice, it was beautiful.
Did you think that he would be capable of a romantic relationship?
No, I didn't dare hope.
You know, I want one independent girl, but I feel like I can't. If I found a girl that had a job, had a car, had her own home, I can't be with her.
Look, they're up here, I'm down here.
Wearing the jewelry kind of makes me feel that sort of false sense of confidence, and it kind of makes me feel less vulnerable.
Well, it looks like the weather just came on. I was going to catch a glimpse here.
We're so fixated on our comfort zones. It's sometimes difficult to communicate.
I gave Geeta a hug. I put my arms around her.
Whether someone can love you without truly understanding you, I think it's absolutely possible.
I love it when she holds me, hugs me, kisses me, smiles at me. Love is neither visible, measurable. There's no way to quantify it.
And what's in here?
It's in here. It always will be.
How do you know when you're in love?
I don't know.
Hello, welcome back.
A documentary with great Peter Santiago.
Oh, thank you. You actually beat me to my question. I was going to ask people what their impression of the documentary was.
Well, that one guy, he went through a lot. He looked okay. He enjoyed watching Jeopardy, apparently. Yes,
Yeah.
and that two autistic couple. Yeah, they lived a good, happy life. I'm glad they worked things out together up to marriage. Yeah, and they played a nice song together. I recognize that tune on the keyboard.
Right. Yeah, it's from Big, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't know. I just recognize the tune. I feel bad for that Lenny guy. He's not happy for who he is. Yep. He has work experience and everything, but he really is not happy for who he is. Yep. He can't accept himself for who he is, unlike his mom.
Mm. And it seemed like a lot of outside influences, right, affected how he felt about himself.
Yep.
What about anybody else? I mean, what were your impressions? And everybody could turn their cameras on and unmute themselves if they want to talk.
There we go. So I think this documentary, yes, it was like, as myself, I gotta say this documentary is very, very amazing because as we know, I am autistic as well. Because I seen like, I feel bad for Lenny, because I know he has a very hard time, and I feel like I I felt I I felt that I wanted to support Lenny, that he was a great guy. And you only had to do is to stay positive and just find someone who really love. Because I know that dating is kind of challenging and you only have to do just take their best in there and, positive.
Yeah. Yeah. It seemed like because of his experiences, though, right? He might have lost that positivity at some point.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thanks for sharing.
You too.
Anybody
The film
else?
was really nice. It definitely gave different perspective of things, and it showed the importance of like having a safe space to feel and be yourself, and that love could be expressed in so many different ways. And like we don't necessarily have to do it like the traditional way, but with Lenny as well, like him accepting who he is and stuff, that has a lot to do. I feel like if he has a safe space, it'll be more, he could be himself, just like we all have like a place that we could feel safe. Like for me, mine's is Daniel's Music Foundation. So that's where I feel myself. I could be there. Nobody could judge me for anything. Like we could all be ourselves and enjoy music together. So I think for him, it's just like at the end, he found like kind of a safe space, but he was proud of it because he had a job, like, so that was good.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that was one thing that he talked about a lot, right? That he really needed to find a job.
Mm-hmm.
So it was nice to see him achieve that goal, right?
Yeah.
Anybody else? Any impressions? Okay. I have another question for you. In the film, Dave had this formula, right, for love. Alexis and Stacy, you both mentioned love, right, and how it's different for different people.
Wi-Fi network. You can find setup instructions in the help section of your
I
Alexa.
just have one question.
No problem.
I don't know if
What
you
was
know,
it?
but are Dave and Lindsay still together?
No, I don't know the after story, unfortunately.
Okay.
And actually, just like you all, this was my first time watching the film. I kind of wanted to wait to experience it with everybody that was here. and I'm not ashamed to say it, but I actually cried a couple of times.
Yeah.
You know, when I saw the the pain that Lenny was going through, and then I cried happily when she accepted Steven's proposal. Right, that was a nice moment. So my question was, so Dave has this formula, right? The 25% looks, 25% personality, and 50% how the other person treats you. I mean, what do people think about that formula and the way that works out? I mean, it worked for Dave, right? Steven, sorry.
I think it's a positive formula. Like, I mean, at the end of the day, it's really how somebody treats you. That's what, like that's what empowers the relationship and in so many different ways, like that's how you show and express love and, like how we treat each other with respect or without respect or like, like that shows if you care about that person or not.
All right. Yeah, I mean, I would even argue that maybe the T needs to be like maybe 75% or 80, right? Maybe even 100. All right. I mean, did anybody gain any new insights from this film, into autism or somebody that you know with autism?
One thing I really liked about the film or just some of these couples, I think it just kind of shows how universal the need or sometimes the desire for connection is. And I think through Lenny's struggles, that was really hard to watch. And I think a lot of it resonated with me, even though, of course, my circumstances are so different. So it was just kind of really nice to watch just different people trying to express how they want to feel seen and or touched or and I think that is compelling and beautiful and sad and so yeah, but it was good to feel moved by remembering that and seeing that.
Yeah, agreed. Thank you. Did this film maybe counteract some stereotypes that some folks might have, or? Stella and Nick, feel free to chime in as well.
Well, actually, I have a question that is related to that one that you asked. I noticed that everyone talked about Lenny, and we talked about, what's his name? The one who went down on his knee. But what about the other guy? The one who wasn't quite as articulate as the other two, whose wife died and he was struggling to express how he felt. What do you all think of him?
I think it was interesting how his wife had that connection with him. That's special, like when they asked her how does she know that he loves her, and she was like, by his eyes, the way how he looked at her. And like you could see that they had a connection, but after she passed, like his concept of love, like it was over, but he still missed her. So it was interesting, but kind of like hard to explain. Yeah, it was hard to like explain or understand that part of it, but you could see that he loved her in some shape or form. It was a part of his routine, and like the way how he spoke about her. They had a connection, but his concept of love might be different to what society expect it to be or what we expect it to be. So yeah, like his own is
he couldn't express it, right?
Yeah, and
right.
he was
Lenny
more
was
like if the person is alive, he could love them. If they pass, he can't. It's over. Like So yeah.
Yeah, we want to be sure because, you know, Lenny could express his frustration. And so we could sympathize with that. And the, what's his name, Stephen?
Yeah.
David?
Yeah, sorry, I had the names wrong. I'm really bad with names. So
Okay.
Dave was the one who proposed, and Stephen
Oh.
was Geeta's husband.
Okay, so Dave and his girlfriend, they were able to express how they felt, but Stephen couldn't. And yet I think we all could agree that they all felt, they all had emotions. And I guess my point is we don't want to overlook Stephen's emotions just because he couldn't express them the way the other two could.
That's the way I was. That's the way I was seeing it. That this, he just didn't know how to express it. It's not that he did not still love her, but that because she died, you know, there was an ending. However, he didn't really know how to express the nuance of his feelings, even though she had died.
Mm-hmm.
Because I feel that he absolutely still loved her.
Yeah, I agree.
Cool.
And you know that that feeling he had at the end of, you know, trying to, in a way, push love away. I mean, that happens to many people who get their heart broken, right? And it was obvious that his heart was broken when he found out about his wife. And so, just like anybody else, you know, he's trying to push that pain away, potentially, right?
They seemed like they were two complementary couples, and I thought it was so interesting that for the other pair, where Dave was very much scientific, but was looking at all kinds of patterns. He was very creative in describing like the different waves and what love was, and it seems like both couples found something in each other that complemented things that they struggled with. You know, were things that they put together, and they understood each other so well.
That's true.
Yeah, I agree.
Or like my mother always used to say, every bread has its cheese. Why cheese? I don't know, but that's what she said.
You read the question right out of my mind. Why cheese?
Why cheese? I don't know. I don't know, but that's what she said. Every bread has its cheese.
Maybe she just like bread and cheese.
Maybe she just
Well, another question I have for everyone is like, so how do you think the resources available to and the backgrounds that these people came from, you know, how this affected their, you know, their journey to find love and, you know, their experience as a person with autism? Because I think we could see throughout the film that people had different circumstances, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the opportunity to go to college and stuff, we see that it has been more available in the last couple years. But before it wasn't as available, and people didn't think it was possible and stuff. But now students are showing and making a difference, and showing that they can go to college, and they just need different resources to help them achieve their goal in college. So it definitely shows that he could have gone to college with the right tools and resources.
No, that's a
the
good point.
motivation sure was there. He wanted.
Right. They very much wanted to go to college.
Very much so.
How else do you?
He wanted to go to college for, but he saw going to college as a way of improving himself, and it made me think of CUNY. Isn't that why CUNY is around? You know, to give people an opportunity to improve on their situation, whatever it is, whether you have a disability or not. It's the opportunity that he. What I noticed though is that even though Lenny had a very supportive mother, I noticed he didn't have any friends like him. He didn't see, but he so didn't want to be autistic. But I'm wondering if that was because he really didn't know any other people who were autistic.
Or
And
the
so he's
stigma with it.
comparing himself, he is comparing himself to non-autistic people. And then just seeing his deficits and not noticing his strengths.
Yeah, Lenny's situation, when I was, watching them, because I mean, I guess I connected with Lenny because I wanted to go to, college for a very particular reason, but now I was able to go. But like just seeing how like he would even thinking about himself, how he couldn't have relationships because he didn't have these couple things, and because things that he saw, I guess, maybe in videos or on YouTube, it just made me think of how important it is to have visual representation. Because I know on Netflix they have shows now, and there's some other places that are having more. There's more media being produced, and a lot of the media is produced by folks who who may be autistic, or folks who have different disabilities, what have you, but how it's important to have these other, so people to see themselves so they can see the different possibilities. And I know it wasn't the intention of this film, but it's like, I was just so wishing that there was a way for Lenny to meet this Jade, like the other people there. So it's like, there's possibilities for you. You don't have to stay in this one box for yourself. And I know that was the intention of the film, but I just thought that was just like something that was it would be so useful for him. And I was just really glad at the end he'd found, he had a job, and he seemed like, it was refreshing to see him just kind of like take to like feeling like now I'm doing something. So, and I hope there are new things on the horizon for him.
Yeah, I think we're all rooting for Lenny. I hope he does find his people.
I also think that like something about Lenny's story that stood out to me is like at the same time that he was very down on himself, he also kind of made assumptions about other groups of people and put them in very fixed categories or like with fixed qualities. And I think because it was so rigid, and then he was just like, oh, I can't talk to this type of person, or I can't be with this type of woman. And I also think that's also very universal sometimes too, where we just make assumptions about people in the same way that people made assumptions about him. And it's like, oh, you're autistic, or in the movie they referred to him as special. And it's like, but people would start treating him differently once they found that out. So it's like everyone is kind of doing that to different extents. So I just thought that was really interesting, because it's like, as a Black woman, I'm like, yes, I'm independent, but also like, I would love to be with someone who wants to take care of me. I would love to share, in life and responsibility and finances. So yeah, just stuff like that. I hope that he has overcome or will overcome that perception. And I think that's something that everybody could work on as well, to not limit ourselves from our goals and interactions and things that we want.
Well said, well said.
Very.
Yeah.
So my last question is, does this change anything for you? Watching this film, does it change maybe some thoughts you have, or some things you might do? Or
Makes me feel bad for some parts of the autistic community for who can accept for who they are. I'm in correction, who can accept themselves for who they are. But I'm happy for the others. Like that other guy, I'm hoping he'll take his time for losing someone he cares about and hang in there. And as for that autistic couple, I'm still questioning the whole romance thing. It's hard to find someone who is meant to be with you and someone you can be happy with. Yeah, I question that. And I'm not seeing any of that right now for the autistic community, because I hardly freedom is on hold until further notice, as we all know it. And if freedom ever returns, I would like to see the autistic community trying to get back to their future goals out there.
I think that maybe that concept of meant to be, sort of goes back to finding the perfect mate, and maybe relates to what Vivian was saying, that we sort of create that box, right? Then it's hard to find somebody that's going to fit in that box. So maybe if people were a bit open-minded, the idea of who's meant for them or who's perfect or who's right for them would expand, and they'd have more people that might be a good fit. Anybody else care to say how maybe things might change for them? Alexis?
Sorry. So I
You're
felt like, oh,
You can find setup instructions in the
oh
help
God.
section.
Sorry.
It's okay. Okay, let me do this thing one more time. So I think like after this movie, like I feel change, because like no matter what, if I feel, like as myself as the autistic person, you know, is to find a good way to find an open door for people with disability, and also of the employments as well, because I know there's a lot of people with disabilities needs to take a chance, for the good positive way. And because I did, just to say, like, yeah, I did, like, meet new friends and find they better. Yeah, I think, yeah, to find better, the opportunities, because I felt that if I want to have a better, I could say, I'm sorry about that. I was like not good speaking, but it's okay. But if I want to have a, a just to have feel positive person, then I will able to, just to think about my own exploration, and think about of how the autistic community, including with disability community as well, to feel happy.
Thank you for sharing.
You're welcome.
I might have to mute myself back and forth because there's a garbage truck passing by. Anybody else care to share?
Yeah, it was great movie to watch. I think there should be more programs for those who are on autism spectrum. I'm still learning about them because it's my second semester in college. I'm new to this information, but there's also a movie on Netflix that I'm watching right now. Like, it's series. It's Love on the Spectrum. It is also a very interesting movie to watch if someone wants to learn more about them. Because I have assignment due, I'm still learning, but it was great to watch the movie. I learned a lot about them. I'm still learning. I hope I will learn more about them, how they feel. Yeah, it was great.
I mean, the best way to learn about people with autism is maybe to get to know someone on the spectrum. We actually have quite a few students on campus that would love to have a new friend or meet a new person.
Too bad we hardly go back to our campus, Santiago.
Yeah. Well, hopefully someday soon we can get back to campus.
Well, I just to say, Peter, just to mention, I totally agree, because if someone feels alone, if don't have friends, like it's a good time to meet new friends, because like I had an experience before, when I was alone, but after that, like I just meet friends because it's like I know like some other people they won't understand it, but there are the good side is that they will like there might be someone that they know or someone who love who has autism or autistic. They they want to know about how they experience about how his son or daughters has autistic, you know.
You know, one of the ways that has been helpful for a lot of people is those meetups on that you can go to online, where you can meet people who they have different groups. For instance, they have the SA, which would be people with social anxiety, and other things that they could just meet other people like them, or other people who are interested in meeting them, and just do things together, go hang out, go, go bowling, go do things that the group would be interested in doing, so that, you're not just sitting home by yourself, just thinking about how bad things are for you, you know. Hanging out with other people. And that's why everyone is so anxious to get back on campus, because that way you get an opportunity to interact with people and things begin to look a little better, when you're interacting with other people, especially if it's people who understand you. We'll be back on campus soon, Michael, we hope. It's totally up to what the pandemic does.
That's her. Yeah, well, as of right now, I hate when I mix my words. It's hard for friends to do any in-person activities or for college students to go to college campus because, the virus is out there waiting to destroy us all. Nothing we can do about it.
Well, people are still getting together like we're doing right now on Zoom.
Yeah, but only virtually, and you have to be safe in your homes. We're safe and sound.
Yes.
There being in-person stuff.
Right, and that's for right now, but you can still form those relationships so that when we do get back out into the world, then we can spend time together. And there are clubs on campus that are still meeting, that are still getting together. I'm the faculty advisor for a club called Students Unlimited, which, we're still getting together every 2 weeks. We haven't, we're not on the official list of active clubs right now, just because of we need officers, and I'm smiling at Vivian over there. But we're still getting together, and we still have a good time over Zoom. And I think many of the members already, Michael. Margot is one of the people that shows up every couple of weeks.
Yeah.
And anybody else that's here today, if you're interested, I'll put my email in the chat, and you can email me, and I'll tell you when we're going to meet next, and you can join us. Well, thank you all for coming, and for sharing your ideas and your experiences in some cases. We have quite a few events this week related to people on the spectrum. So Monday, we're going to have a parent panel of parents of people on the spectrum talking about their experiences, with their son or daughter or their child who was diagnosed as being on the spectrum. And on Tuesday, we have Dr. Stephen Shore, who is a professor at Adelphi University and also a person on the spectrum. His research is on how we could include people on the spectrum in society, and the value and their contribution to society. he also came up with the phrase that is repeated often, but I don't think people think it came from him, which is that if you've met one person on the spectrum, you've met one person on the spectrum. That everyone that's on the autism spectrum is different. So we can't really classify them just as someone who is autistic and it means that they're a certain way. And then on Wednesday, we have a student panel. So there's going to be KCC students who are, currently at Kingsborough or alumni, and they're going to talk about their experiences at Kingsborough. And then on Thursday, we have an art show. And the art show is going to be amazing because I've already seen the mock-up of it. One of our staff members, Benjamin Hannon, actually recreated the art gallery from campus, and that's where we're going to be viewing the work. So it should be interesting. If you would like to know the dates, the times, and the Zoom information for the events, it's on the KCC calendar. And I'm going to drop the link for the calendar in the chat. Just open it up and you'll see all the events scheduled for the rest of the week. So I thank everybody for coming, and I hope somebody was going to. Oh, thank everybody for coming, and I hope you have a great weekend. I know it was kind of tough to show up on a Friday afternoon, especially on a holiday, but you made it, and I appreciate that.
To me, it's worth it. As in, Happy World Autism Awareness Day, which is why I came.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that this was a really good start to our Disability Awareness Week. The discussion was good. And thank you so much, because you all got the ball rolling. You set the standard. And now every other event after this has to meet or better your standard. Let's see what happens. Thank you. You did a good job.
You did a very amazing, Peter, because I just know this event is very important of the Autism Awareness Month or Disability Awareness Month. It was a great pleasure, to you, Peter, but hopefully I could join other events as well. Just one more thing, because I was also a CCSD member and just to feel supportive, and any other CUNY campuses are also having as well.
Right.
Great.
Thank you. And all the events are at 3:00, so hopefully I'll see you all at the next one. And all right.
You too, Peter. Thank you.
Okay. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Have a good weekend.
Take care.
Yeah. Take care. Bye.
Bye.